Can opposition leader Bobi Wine ever actually become president of Uganda? I'm Martine Dennis, and this is Africa Here and Now. As Uganda gears up for its next election cycle, I spoke to the leader of the National Unity Platform, the NUP. I began by asking the man known as the People's President what he was hoping to achieve while he's here in the UK.
My country, Uganda, where I come from, is a country of 46 million people, majority of which are young people, but under the brutal rulership of General Museveni for 40 years and counting. Now, we have been on an effort to free Uganda from the corrupt regime to a democracy, and the efforts there don't only rely on Uganda, but internationally. So we're here in the UK to meet various stakeholders, politicians, various leaders, and most importantly, our chapter here. We have a whole lot of Ugandans that are here, economic and political refugees, but are playing a big role to advance the struggle back home.
What's been the official response to you? I'm thinking that much of Europe and America, obviously, they're turning away somewhat from Africa, aren't they? Yeah. Concentrating much more on domestic affairs, European affairs. What sort of response have you had?
Well, it is a visibly positive response. We are yet to see what comes out of it. Of course, the cry for democracy has always been received with respect. The demand for human rights has been received well. We've had numerous meetings that went well, and we've had some pledges to stand with us. We are only trying to actualize those pledges. Members of parliament here, people in the administration here, and luckily now we have friends in the new government here in the UK. So we have been trying to lobby the UK government to change its stand on the aid that is being given in Uganda, on the collaboration with Uganda. Just one thing that we ask for, to make democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights preconditions for collaboration with Uganda. We think that can fundamentally tilt the ground.
But the UK is committed to reducing the amount of overseas aid. It's putting much, much more money into defence spending, as is the rest of Europe. I mean, how hopeful are you that you're actually going to get what you want?
What we want is not foreign aid. We're not rejecting it, but that is not our main preoccupation, because even when they give us aid, they've given us aid, so much aid in the past, but that aid has been used against the people of Uganda, either stolen, lost in corruption, or turned around into activities that don't benefit but rather oppress the people of Uganda. We're asking them to change. And not only that, but to also call out the atrocities of the regime, which is passing as an ally of the UK.
And again, what sort of response are you getting from the new, I say new, they've been in power for less than a year. What sort of mood music are you picking up from this government?
I'm picking positive mood music. I hope it is what I'm imagining. Yeah.
Is there a danger for you back home? Because you've been pretty much championed by many people in the West, because you are fundamentally against the old style political establishment in your country. And everybody has seemed to really enjoy that message. Are you in danger, though, of being seen perhaps as maybe a Western puppet?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, the regimes back home in Africa, particularly in Uganda, much as they did what I am doing back in the day when they were my age and in similar struggles, General Museveni reached out to Europe, reached out to America, was living in Sweden while he was fighting against the former president Obote. But it is the easiest selling point right now. If they don't call us Western puppets, they'll call us promoters of homosexuality or promoters of Western interests. But in real sense, the dictators of Africa are the real Western puppets today, that they are mortgaging Africa to either Europe or China for their continued stay in power. It comes off as if the exchange is the silent and the turning of a blind eye to atrocities and human rights violations. We come to the West not to ask, but to demand that they stop sponsoring our oppression. That's not too much to ask for, and that does not make us Western puppets. We're not asking for money from the West. We're only asking for the West to facilitate a free and fair election, to stop sponsoring oppression. How do they sponsor oppression? By giving money as if they give for aid or health or development, but in real sense, they don't follow it up, or they don't put stringent terms to it. And this money is used to oppress and even kill people in our countries.
I was also thinking about the other kind of youth groups. I mean, you're still young. I mean, you've been at this for some time, Bobi, but you're 43.
Yes.
Still young, especially in an African context. How much synergy is there between you and other younger opposition politicians? I'm thinking maybe Malema in South Africa, maybe Chamisa in Zimbabwe. What about Gen Z, that sort of leaderless group of people that have had so much of an impact on Kenyan politics? How much synergy is there between you?
First, I will not be quick to call myself young. I am 43, coming from a country that has 85% of the population under the age of 35. That makes me an old man back home. But still, I know that Africa is a young continent, and we have a lot of youthful and vibrant leaders from South Africa to Senegal to Zimbabwe and everywhere else. Some are in the opposition, and some have actually assumed power, like Diomaye in Senegal. We try to connect. We've built synergies and collaborations over time. But it's also important to understand that just like the West here, some of the people that get into power, they tend to prioritize diplomacy over democracy. And this fear of offending the powers that be has cost us the generational agenda of liberating the whole of Africa in our lifetime.
What do you mean?
I mean that, for example, even when wrong is being done, it is not very easy for a sitting president, especially a new president, to come out and call out a president that, abuses right or is not on the agenda. And it's not so many of us. Majority of African leaders have their future way behind them. So they cannot relate with our mindset. We just have to struggle to see that we get as many young and new leaders in power as possible so we can be able to do it from the same stage.
So what sort of support is there for you and your generation of leadership? I'm thinking back to the liberation era when there were the frontline states, for instance. There were so many organizations under the aegis of the OAU which supported African liberation. What support do you get?
Honestly, the support we get now is from our own oppressed people. There has been, over the years, over the past decades, there has been a deliberate effort by the revolutionaries of yesteryears to crush aspirations, to ensure that nobody rises with their similar mentality. No wonder in countries like Uganda, political education has been banned, political talk shows has been banned, and young people are so much led astray that we had to take time to build afresh. Now what we're trying to do is to incite and awaken an entire generation. No wonder we have the rise of Gen Z in Kenya, which I believe is largely everywhere. You would see it in an even bigger wave in Uganda, only that in Uganda it's a death wish.
Which brings me to the political landscape in Uganda today. About to start, aren't we? The campaign period for next year's election. Are you standing?
Here I am. I've presented myself to my team. Not that I'm the alpha and omega, not that I'm the ultimate, but I've said that I'm available if I'm required to lead them into any effort. We are going into this election, not that we expect General Museveni to announce us. It happened 2021, we defeated him, but the entire world watched as many of our campaign team was massacred, as many were thrown in jail, as I was put under house arrest, as the internet was switched off. All we want is the nation to give us the attention to stand with us as we fight it on our own, because we know we can achieve that. We know, just like it happened in the Gambia under Yahya Jammeh, we know it can happen now. But democracy dies in the dark, and we don't want our democracy to die in the dark.
But the veteran opposition leader, Kizza Besigye, who is still locked up in jail, he himself has said that an election alone is not going to unseat Museveni.
And I agree, an election alone. We don't want an election alone. That's why I'm here in the UK. This is not where the election is going to happen. It's happening in Uganda. But we want to galvanize all efforts. Here in the UK, what we want from the UK government and the international community is, number one, to stand by the values that they profess to defend democracy, even if the defense of democracy is only disassociating with those that abuse it.
2021, as you've already mentioned, was a particularly tough time for you. I mean, you've been put under house arrest, you've been beaten, you've been almost starved, your house was laid to siege, so that all manner of suffering you've gone through, and your family. How on earth do you keep going?
I don't know. I mean, I live every day the way it comes, as if it's the last, because, and it's not just me, it's everybody. In fact, in the Ugandan context, I'm in a better state than so many of my comrades in the struggle. They get locked up, they get beaten, and nobody knows. When I get arrested, the world knows. So I keep going by looking behind me. I get the least of the oppression and the most of the attention. But my friends that suffer in the dark are not complaining. They keep going. That makes me feel like the beatings I get are only massages, and I keep going.
And what does Bobi, your wife, think?
I don't know what she thinks,
I'm sure,
but I know what she says. She says we must not give up. I know it feels tough. Initially, she did not want this, but Bobi and I agreed that this is a one-way effort. It's a one-way road. It is dangerous to engage in this kind of thing that one day, but it's even more dangerous to give up. Yeah.
You've got 4 children, I believe. And so your big boy is at college in the States now. So he's obviously big enough to have his own opinions. What do you think about the family being put through this?
My son has seen this, he has grown up in this, he has seen our people suffer, but he has also seen people lay down their lives in defense of the leader of this struggle, and that is his father. So he feels privileged that he is surviving under the protection of the masses. He encourages us, but is also worried for us.
Now, there was a by-election, just a few weeks ago, Kawempe, where I understand that there was quite a lot of violence and there was rigging, and yet you were triumphant. You won that by-election. What is that telling you about how the next election is going to be fought?
Actually, the recently concluded by-election speaks so much to our plan in 2026. That's why we've called it a protest vote. We know that we will win the vote, but I'm not sure if we will win the count. We know that we have the masses, but we know that if there's nothing fundamentally different, the regime will do what it has done over time. So we are charging up our people to stand firm. General Museveni brought billions, parked tankers, military cars in polling stations, tried as much as possible to rig, but we had told our people to stand firm, be around, and not live even in the midst of intimidation and tear gas because they cannot kill all of us. They prevailed. So we want to do this at an even larger extent. We want to do this in 350 constituencies in Uganda.
Strategically, as the opposition in Uganda, what about, we mentioned him already, Kizza Besigye, still locked up? Is there any advantage, would you say, to perhaps collaborating with Besigye and forming a united opposition?
Absolutely. It makes us weaker when one of us is incarcerated because each of us is a force to reckon with. And just days before Dr. Besigye was taken to jail, we were having a conversation on how to come together and have an electoral collaboration. We are still having the conversation with these people, but also having a chat with other forces of change, other political parties that are bent on change, because not every opposition political party in Uganda is actually opposition.
And what are your thoughts on his continued detention? I mean, his rendition from Kenya and then his incarceration in military jail. What are your thoughts about that?
It is meant to intimidate all of us. It is meant to send a strong message to all of us. I know that what is happening to Dr. Besigye can very easily happen to me. As a matter of fact, I had information that I was next. General Museveni fears competition, and he will try to clamp down on all competition as quick as he can. So what's happening to Besigye is not very far away from him. Yeah.
Now, it's been said over and over again that Bobi Wine or Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu will never become president. What's the point of continuing on this path when, as you point out, what lies ahead for you is perhaps more of what you've had?
Who says that? Who says I will never be president? Depends on who says. I say I was elected president, so to so many Ugandans, to the majority of Ugandans, I'm already president. So the statement that I'll never be president is not valid anymore. It's now about swearing in officially as president. Now that I'm president already, that will be just another step.
Your power base is the Buganda Kingdom. The Buganda, all constituencies, I think, vote for you on a regular basis. Is your support, therefore, purely ethnic?
I don't agree with anybody that says my support is mainly in Buganda. No. Our support is all over the nation because we won in Busoga squarely, and it was announced. Although it was not announced, we won in the far west, in Kasese. We won in many parts in the north. So I would agree that our support is in Buganda. Of course, General Museveni is highly tribalistic. No wonder it's the biggest pest that has eaten us. All government institutions are staffed with people of his own tribe. I mean, nobody comes near him unless if he's from his tribe or clan. That's not the case. My wife comes from Museveni's tribe. My colleagues who I work with very closely, they come from tribes scattered all over Uganda, unlike General Museveni. So my support, or even life, is not ethnic. Only that, since General Museveni is coming, I come from the largest ethnic group, the Baganda. I'm in Uganda, and I'm proud about that. And this is the area in the central region, the most important region where you find the capital city and almost all government installations. Now, General Museveni had never lost that region to anybody ever since he came. And guess what? I showed up and he lost the place. So I understand when he tries to ethnize our support.
So you are going to be running. You're putting yourself in the front line again for the next election. What's your manifesto? What are your basic campaigning points?
Our agenda has never changed. Our agenda is in the first five. I want to put up the first: healthcare, education, infrastructure, agriculture, and revitalizing the economy. That is our agenda. Of course, we look at clamping down on corruption because that's the cancer that is eating us. Corruption is now the currency, it's the main tool of the Museveni regime. Corruption is not only a problem, it's a tool corruption is institutionalized in Uganda. We collect 30 trillion shillings, that's 8.1 billion US dollars. But 1/3 of that is lost in corruption. The corruption is practiced by the political elite. Now imagine a poor country like Uganda losing 2.7 billion in corruption. When you crack down on that corruption, that money will be enough to deal with our health care, our education, as we plan these other areas. This is simple and it should be simplified for every person to see and also to supervise when they take over.
So what sort of foreign policy would you envisage? I mean, how would you like Uganda to interact with your region, for instance? What are your thoughts on Ugandan troops in Juba? What are your thoughts on Ugandan troops in Eastern DRC?
Well, I'll start with the far away countries, developing partners like the West, Europe and all that. It should be trade. It should not be just aid. It should be collaboration. We have so much to sell to you guys out here. We don't want to be begging. Around us, Uganda has always been the interventionist. Our military has been going everywhere. And guess what? We export violence. We don't go there to create peace. We don't go there as peacekeepers. We go there as partisan interferers. I mean, look at Sudan. We go to a country to take a side in an internal political rambling. Look what we did in the DRC. We have gone to the DRC and we were taken to the International Court of Justice and convicted for rape, for plunder, and all these gross human rights violations. We were condemned to pay more than 300 million US dollars to the DRC and all that. That is not how we want to relate. We know as Africans, we believe in the value of being your brother's keeper. But we should be going there in a principled way and not as aggressors, the same way it is happening right now.
You talked about human rights, and obviously human rights are a fundamental issue that is raised constantly when talking about Uganda, particularly the human rights of the marginalized groups like the LGBTQ groups. Yeah. What is the Bobi Wine position on gay rights in Uganda? Because it has been said that you've flip-flopped somewhat. You were well thought to be pretty homophobic almost, and then you changed your position. What is the current position of Bobi Wine and the NUP when it comes to marginalised groups?
Well, I'm here in the UK after serving 10 years of a ban, not being able to come to the UK because of the statements I made in my 20s. Of course, you cannot hold me accountable as a 43-year-old. You cannot keep me in the same line of thought as I was in my early 20s. But I must also mention on this opportunity that the West should stop looking at LGBT rights as the only human rights. Otherwise, they provoke Africans and people of the world to start imagining that there's a hidden agenda. People get killed every day in Uganda, and they should all have rights. They don't have to be LGBT to deserve the human rights. All human beings deserve human dignity. For example, in Uganda, we should have the right to life. People get killed on the 18th and 19th of November, 2020. More than 100 people were mauled down to death. I had hoped that this would alarm the international community the same way one member of the LGBT community is killed.
So do you feel that there's an unfair concentration upon the gay community?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it does not also benefit those LGBT people because it shows bias and unfair concentration. We're saying all human beings should be valued the same.
So the current anti-gay, just to clarify, the current anti-gay draconian legislation against the gay community, that is not something that you would support, is that?
I wouldn't want to dwell so much on a law that has been passed in Uganda. I've said it in the past that that law, in many ways, was intended to target the opposition because once you come out and make a statement, there's a law that they have passed, then they can very quickly grab you and convict you the same way they've been trying to imprison any of us in Uganda, especially that it has a clause that anybody that is even perceived to be a support of them. So that's why I restrain myself on commenting so far on that issue.
The president's son, Museveni, he attracts an awful lot of attention, doesn't he? How do you get on with him?
General Museveni's son, who is the head of our military, I hope you, the international community, are following his outbursts on X, formerly Twitter. And I hope you have seen when he comes out to refer to the rest of Ugandans as slaves. I hope you have seen him promising to behead me and promising to attack Kenya, to promising to capture Juba, threatening the American ambassador, and recently threatening the British High Commissioner. That is where we are. That is why we want to save the face of our country from being the laughing stock of the world. But even you, the international community, it will make you look as moral as you speak. Otherwise, it is disturbing to speak of morality and values while you are being seen standing shoulder to shoulder with somebody that abducts people, tortures them, and brags on social media.
What then do you think does the future hold for you, for Bobi Wine, for your family? The situation is fraught in Uganda, and as you approach the next election, it just is likely to become more and more tense. What does the immediate future then hold for you?
For me as an individual, the future doesn't have to hold anything for me as an individual. I look at this as all of us. What does the future hold for us as a generation in Uganda? The future is robust. The future is hopeful. We, as a generation, have been able to awaken each other, and we're massively awake. We've been able to united around our pains and aspirations as a generation across tribes, across religions, across genders. We are a generation that is first world in mind, also third world in the pocket. However, at least for now, we've been able to diagnose our problem and find a solution. We are on course to achieving the solution, and we must not stop. I always say that we are not where we wanted to be, but at least we have not given up. That is something to pride in.
And you're prepared to take more beatings, more torture, more harassment as you proceed towards the next election?
No, I'm not prepared. I don't want to take them. It's like him. When you say prepared, it's like I'm inviting them. I'm not prepared. When they come, what do I have to do? I'll endure. But I don't want them. And I'm not prepared for them. And when they come, I'll try to fight back. Yeah.
Bobi Wine, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, Martin.
I had my chat with Bobi Wine on April the 9th, 2025. Remember to subscribe and share it widely. If you want another really interesting conversation, check out the one with Tebe Ikalafeng, who discusses what Africa needs to do in a post-aid world. You can catch up with all our past episodes on our website, Africa Here and Now. There you'll also find some interesting commentaries on some of the most pressing issues of the day. Follow us on social media. I'm at Martine Dennis on X. You can also email me, martine@africahereandnow.com. You can get us on all the major audio platforms as well. Our producer is Anne Busby. Our original music is by Enric Adam. Simon Elliott put it all together. A big thank you to my guest, Bobi Wine. And of course, a huge thank you to you for your company.